petitioned articles, one saying that we should have the number of citations under the motor vehicle noise bylaw presented annually so that the public can review the progress or lack thereof in having their wish fulfilled that they not be subjected to loud and excessive motor vehicle noise. The second article, dealing with the motorcycle rides through town, come about from the fact that, lo and behold, it's the police who sponsor a motorcycle ride. And the motorcycle ride pretty much is just an excuse to make noise. So what's going on over here, okay? We have a police department that's not enforcing the law that we have on the books, and yet they're inviting an element that engages in loud and excessive motor vehicle noise. Who has claim on the attentions of the police? I mean, is it the motorcycle interest, or is it the public interest that prevails? So those are the questions that come that are very germane right over here. And this is what the issues come right down to. Now, I want to explain to you, or illustrate for you, a couple of things. One, I mean, if there's any notion that I'm not supporting the police, I'm going to disabuse you of that right now. I graduated from the second Citizens Police Academy class. I felt honored to have been asked to participate. I was glad I did. I learned an awful lot. One of the things that I learned was, I think Chief Carnes was pretty shrewd, because with each graduate of the Citizens Police Academy class, an extra set of eyes and ears was out there to help do the job of the police. Two instances that I was personally involved with. I pulled into a parking lot of a store so I could go in and do some shopping. And I noticed that it was something that was rather odd, that there was a couple engaged in rather animated discussion while parked in the car. You kind of don't see that too often. Right? When you go shopping, you park your car, you get out and do your shopping. Anyway, I kind of made a mental note of that. Went inside, did my shopping, came out a few hours later. I noticed that the conversation was getting elevated. You could start to hear the profanities coming out. Eventually, it was a man and a woman in the car. The man got out of the car. She started up the car. She ran over the guy's foot. He got injured, okay? And I'm watching all of this, and I'm kind of saying, this isn't right, okay? I call the police, okay, and I give them a description of what's going on. The car, meanwhile, had fled the scene. I got the description of the car, license plate number, fed that all to the police, and I'd like to think that as a result of my being an extra set of eyes and ears, help the police deal with that situation over there. Now, I could provide you with the names of the two officers that I spoke with so that they can corroborate my story, although after tonight's presentation, they probably don't want to acknowledge that they know me anymore. Second instance, I'm returning from Boston, coming down Route 3. Look in the rearview mirror of my car, see nothing. An instant later, I take another look, and there's this car coming up at a very high rate of speed. I estimated about 90 to 100 miles an hour. Kind of like the suspicious activity. I get in touch with the state police, give them a description of the car, what was going on, gave them my name, cell phone number. Car continued speeding on down. Eventually, I crossed the bridge, and I find that the car had been pulled over by a state police trooper.
Yes, is related to the...
Yes, it is. Okay. It is. Okay. All right. And I noticed that they pulled him over. I get back to the house. I get a call from the state police saying, thank you very much for calling this in on us over here. We wanted to let you know that the occupants of the car were apprehended for outstanding warrants on drugs and child endangerment in the car. So why I'm telling you this is the type of support that I lend to the police by my getting on the phone and reporting issues that are of public safety and public concern. I don't see raising a decibel level and disrupting the community as valid support for the police. Now, I'm also going to pass on to you a couple of instances about how this impacts quality of life here in town. About a year or so ago, I was at the South Yarmouth Library in a reading area over there, doing what people do in a library. You like to think that you can concentrate on your material uninterrupted in a fairly quiet space. All of a sudden, there's a blast of sound and reverberation that you can feel through the building that came about from two motorcyclists who thought that they could get their jollies by disrupting the community over there. Everybody in that reading area was jolted. And I have to ask you, is this the type of thing that you want to see in your community? Second instance, a few years back, we had what was called a Family Fun Day at the West Yarmouth Library. It involved, as the name implies, families getting together, getting to enjoy the library, the things that could be had over there. It was a great time. We had music over there, ice cream for the kids, games for the kids, and everything like that. I was standing at the front door of the West Yarmouth Library talking to Jim Hoban at the time. The distance from there to Route 28 is probably, what, 100, 150 yards? I don't know, something like that, okay? I can still see in my mind's eye the motorcyclist who went by with a brightly colored fuel tank on the car, and he's wearing the Wehrmacht helmet on his head, who intentionally had to blast his motorcycle so that the conversation I was having with Jim Hoban was completely obliterated. The music was obliterated. Conversation was obliterated. And I saw a little kid clutching his father's leg because he was frightened. Now, this is a quality of life issue. And I'm asking myself, why should this be tolerated here in this town? And I think you should be asking the very same question. Why is that type of thing tolerated? So these are the issues behind the two petition articles over here. We're not being protected from loud and excessive motor vehicle noise. That particularly includes motorcycles, but it also includes the thumping car stereos where you actually can feel the ground shake. And it also includes this phenomenon now of the drag racers getting out there, laying a patch of rubber, which also causes one hell of a racket. Why aren't we getting protected? I reiterate, we have a government agency that's authorized and trusted and funded. In other words, taxpayer money is being expended by them. Why aren't they doing the job for us? And consequently, that's why the two petition articles are there.
Thank you, Mr. Santos. We'd like to hear from the chief. We're asking questions. Yes. Chief?
That's just one question. The two incidences that you cited were both directly to South Yarmouth Library and both situations.
Well, the first one I was at the South Yarmouth Library, and the second one was a Family Fun Day at the West Yarmouth Library.
Did you report those incidences? Did you call the police?
Well, if you want to get a kick out of this, Norm? There was a detailed officer, okay, right there on Route 28, okay, whom you would think would do something about it. To my knowledge, did nothing.
Chief, your take on all this?
I'm not sure what to say. The articles, the wording speaks for themselves. If you want to speak just on those. I don't plan to get into a debate on Mr. Contos' most recent effort at creating a town bylaw on various things. But these specific bylaws, one of them has to do with getting a permit for a motorcycle ride. There is no such a thing, so I'm not sure what that bylaw actually means. And the second has to do with reporting how many town bylaw violations we have. That is not, it's just a little extra effort. If that would satisfy Mr. Contos, if that's what his fixation is on getting what number those, if that's important, I would suggest that if there is an issue that Mr. Contos has, which he's never done, is to come and talk to me about whatever the specific issue is. And I object to the fact that he says he had to do a public records his information, because he was invited to come in after numerous requests for information to have at our records division to get whatever information it is. So on these bylaws, they're what he's putting forward this year for this year's bylaws.
First of all, as far back as 2008, I contacted the police department about this issue. And essentially, the answer that I got was a brush off. Okay? And I can demonstrate that to you if you wish. Now, with regard to the public records law, I initially asked informally for the information to be provided. I had to wait weeks to get that information, and it wasn't forthcoming. When it finally was forthcoming, it was just a mishmash, which essentially said that the importance of controlling, dealing with motor vehicle noise violations hardly occupies any priority with the police department. Okay? Now, with regard to the issue of a permit being required, that probably speaks more to the inconsistency, arbitrary nature, and capriciousness of the way the town's licensing authority is exercised, as opposed to its application in this particular instance. And because it may be arbitrary and capricious in the way it's exercised, the town may be open to litigation on that basis.
Well, I mean, I understand what you're trying to achieve, but I don't think either one of these petitions that you put forth achieve that. We had this discussion several times, and I actually remember this gentleman too. I don't know, I remember also the deputy chief working with the neighbors or anybody who had a complaint. We have a policy in place, one in town, throttle down. The motorcycles have a right to be on the road. They pay excise tax.
They have a right to be on the road, providing that their muffler systems are legal. They're not.
You did that last year, and it failed. We don't issue permits for these rides. So whatever you're trying to achieve, I guess my frustration is that, you know, every year, instead of working with people to achieve what you're trying to achieve, we put forth these articles that don't serve a purpose.
They serve a purpose of protecting us from loud and excessive motor vehicle noise.
But this won't achieve that, is my point.
Yes, it will achieve it because it will demonstrate, first of all, you know, is there an earnest effort at applying the town's existing bylaw?
But that's really the issue that we have, is that we have a noise bylaw, and you're saying it's not being addressed. I think
Right.
that's the issue, but these aren't the resolutions to those issues.
The public, by having the number of citations listed, that will give the public an idea as to how earnest the effort is at dealing with enforcement of the town's motor vehicle noise bylaw. That's the tool that we have to work with. It's the principal tool. It seems to be a simple and workable tool. So why isn't it being utilized? Seems simple enough to do.
I make a motion we not support Article 37 and 38 as presented.
Very discussion on the motion.
Yeah, I'd just like to say something about, because we've had this discussion, and we've had this quality of life discussion, this is a very important discussion. But we have a police department that's working on quality of life issues that, in my view, are more important to be dealt with before we worry about noise. I'm not supporting noise, but by the same token, we have crime, we have drug issues, we have a lot of issues that need to be addressed before we address this situation. And if somebody is stopped and they've got a loud muffler, they can be cited. It's not necessarily the primary reason somebody's going to get cited anyway. But the other thing is, muffler systems on a motorcycle are supposed to have stickers that demonstrate that those muffler systems carry out the requirements of the law, which is the state law, which we talked about before.
Last year.
It's important. I guess first of all, I'm not unsympathetic to the issue that Harris is bringing up. You know, I live on a street where there's a long straightaway, and on occasion, I mean, it's a fair amount of motorcycle traffic that goes back and forth to Grace Beach. And probably 95% of it is just fine. 5% is not. And there are vehicles that on occasion have I picked up the phone? No. Has it been disturbing at times? Yeah, it has been. But, you know, it's that, do I feel that it's an issue of such substance that I think it's important to redirect our police department's efforts? Not at this time. I don't. And I understand that there is a bylaw on the books, and that its intent is to control noise issues. But right now, I'm not willing to say that we should force or ask the police department to specifically go out and enforce that statute. Now, if they come across a case, then I think it should be enforced. And in the course of their normal duties. But I don't think that asking them to redirect their efforts away from very significant challenges right now is something that we should, in good conscience, do. And that's not to minimize the quality of life. It's not to minimize that at all, but there are other more significant quality of life issues that the police department is spending a great deal of time on, and we're spending additional funds. We're asking the town taxpayers to spend additional funds on those specific issues, and I think that we need to stay the course of it. And that can be frustrating at this stage. But I personally am willing to live with a couple of loud motorcycles and cars, and know that the police department is focused on our security and our safety and on crime prevention.
May I add? Mr. Contis, I encourage you to come and talk to me. Your issues are real. We are a community policing-based department. That is what we do. To put it in a public forum, to try to use like embarrassment or derogatory things is not the way to do it. That's not the way we operate. I encourage you to come and talk to me. We bring issues up that we bring forward to our officers. We do a very good job at it. Your issue is important to you. I will listen. I will put the effort that needs to be done with it. But you need to come and talk to me instead of doing this roundabout way of causing, quite frankly, a lot of wasted time instead of getting right to the issue. We work on lots of issues. Yours is equally as important as everybody else's. You just need to come and talk to me. You've never done that. Please do it. That's all I can ask you.
Do you think that the community has been let down because there's been no enforcement of the existing law?
Not at all. Quite frankly, the community changed the bylaw back in 1997 to lighten the enforcement of it, to first offense to be a warning instead of a citation. So, no, I don't think we don't get lots of calls on it. Very few. Very, very few. Compared to the 40,000 we get every year, I bet if we handle 2 or 3 complaints on noisy motorcycles, I say that's about it. But we use this bylaw in other ways. Matter of fact, I have a documentation right here when Mr. Kenny came in last year and complained about the trash trucks being unloaded. We used this specific bylaw to address that. That was done. We did it the way we do it. We reached out to the business owner. They took it to heart. They made modifications to their process. Mr. Kenny was satisfied, and that's what we do. And if you have a particular issue, if you know a specific person, we will address it. We will check their motorcycle. We will check their stickers. But you need to come to me and talk to me.
I'll ultimately talk to you. I'll gladly talk to you, but don't ask me to be doing your job if I have those.
Never asked.
Well, yeah, so that's what we're saying.
Mr. Chairman, just a couple of quick comments. As I think Jim's pointed out, and Norm as well, no matter how many laws you have, I think it's idealistic to look for uniform enforcement of laws across the board simply because of resources and prioritization of how you deploy those resources. We have a lot of very, very serious issues out there. That doesn't mean that you don't have legitimate grievance. It means that when you rank it in view of all the other enforcement work that the police do, it's not at the very top of the pyramid. The second point I wanted to make is with respect to permitting motorcycle rides. Motorcycle rides I've seen essentially are those that commemorate veterans' services, and one in particular that commemorates a young man in this community that's given his life in the service of his country. If I have to be inconvenienced for a day or an hour or however long it takes so that these people can be honored, these people that have given so much for our country, I'm willing to pay that price anyway.
Yes. I appreciate your comments, Chief. I think it's really important. I think that, working together, I think that you'll be able to achieve, hopefully, what you're wanting to achieve. I just don't think that this gets it. And, I've seen you do that with other issues that have been brought forward before, and it's been very effective.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those who abstain, passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Once again, we'll give anybody that would like to exit at this point of these.